this this problem with high insurance costs. And I want to tell you that Brian Glorioso was one of them, and certainly Senator Mike Reese and Representative Mike Johnson have been just outstanding. 50 days ago, I stood before the people of this state to address one of the most pressing issues Louisiana families are facing and struggling with, and that is the rising cost of insurance. The ever-growing outrageous cost of insurance impacts families from across many different insurance bills, because it's important to remember that when you talk to people out there, you say, do you think we have an insurance crisis problem? They all say, yeah, but they put many things into that insurance crisis bucket. Are they talking about the cost of health insurance? Are they talking about the cost of home or property insurance? Or are they talking about the cost of auto insurance? Last year, we worked extremely hard and we attempted to address home and property insurance reform and some auto insurance reform. On a home and property front, we focused on a package of bills that insurance companies would promise would help to lower premiums. And it's important that they came to us last year with about 24 bills, let's say, and we worked through about 50% of them. And I was criticized for not taking the entire package. But yet my good friend in Florida, Ron DeSantis, took the whole package, and today Floridians are struggling, and today he and the legislature are trying to roll back some of those recommendations. Why? Because it prevented claimants, it prevented policyholders, it prevented citizens from access to our courts when insurance companies don't do the right thing. So I want you to know that our legislature last year did a responsible thing and a thing that would help to work to lower premiums. And we're going to work on the property insurance side, partnering with both Senator Royce DePlessis and Senator Kirk Talbot, and working with our fortified roof program. But we also addressed other bills that we were promised would help to lower auto insurance rates as well. In fact, we have now, in just 16 months, done more than any other governor in the history of this state when it comes to tort reform. And despite all of the bills that we did last year, insurance profits continue to go up, while the amount in people's pockets continues to go down. They promised us that we would see relief. They broke those promises. So this year we began to focus again on the painful cost of automobile insurance. And instead of passing laws that deal with just one side of the equation, we responded by taking a balanced approach that holds both sides accountable for the skyrocketing cost of insurance. Let me be clear. I believe both trial lawyers and insurance companies are responsible. And they are to blame for the pain our families are enduring in their pockets each and every month. In a recent industry-specific report that was commissioned by the legislature, tort reform recommendations were made that the industry promised would reduce rates. And as I stand before you today, in the very midst of this legislative session, I'm happy to report that more than a majority of those recommended reforms have now passed. And I'm still hopeful that by the end of the session, we will sign even more of those industry-specific recommendations that insurance companies asked for, and more importantly, predicted would lower rates. But that's not enough. Today, we will take an even greater step towards stopping frivolous lawsuits by signing additional tort reform measures, because in that stack of bills is bills that many business groups have called on for years to rein in lawsuit abuse. That package, this package and what we have done, is the largest tort reform package in the history of the state. Let me say this again. This package is the largest tort reform package and effort made in the history of this state. Today, in those bills, we go after frivolous lawsuits by using data that clearly shows the impact that lawsuit abuse has had on our insurance costs. The data tells us that we have the same number of accidents as the rest of the country. We pay to repair our cars in line with the rest of the country as well. We actually have less serious injuries than the rest of the country. It was a statistic that I found unusual, but true. However, our minor injury claims in car accidents are twice as much as the national average. This points to a cultural problem of frivolous litigation driven by lawyer advertising that leaves families with outrageous costs. 50 days ago, I vowed to end this. 50 days ago, I promised that I would sign into law a requirement that someone who sues over injuries sustained in an accident must prove that those injuries actually occurred in the accident. Today, I'm keeping that promise. 50 days ago, I promised that I would strengthen our uninsured motorist recovery law, or our no pay, no play law. Because uninsured motorists should not be allowed to reap huge rewards on lawsuits. They should not be allowed to cash in on general damages like emotional distress and pain and suffering. Today we prohibit uninsured motorists from collecting an award for bodily injury medical expenses for any amount below $100,000. That reflects that promise and will become law. And I want you to know that this law was made better by folks who would work towards common ground. And again, I want to give a shout out to Representative Brian Glorioso as well. 50 days ago, I promised that we would prohibit illegal immigrants who drive on our streets from cashing in on frivolous lawsuits. Today, we keep that promise by signing House Bill 436 by Representative Gabe Furman, who would prohibit undocumented immigrants who are injured in car accidents from collecting general damages. In addition to these promises, I'm also signing a bill that business groups have clamored for many, many, many years. A modified comparative fault. I promised our business leaders that comparative fault bill that we will sign prohibits drivers responsible for at least 51% of the accidents from receiving a damage award to cover their injuries. This piece of legislation was a hallmark of what, and it has eluded them until today. All of these reforms address the problem of frivolous and minor injury claims that drive up our citizens' insurance costs. But these bills are not enough. We also need to hold insurance companies accountable too. Today, we also say to our insurance companies, you will be held accountable to your policyholders and to our citizens as well. Looking at the data again, we see loss ratios, or the amount of money insurance companies collect versus the amount they pay out per dollar, is better in Louisiana than it is in Texas and Florida, and more in line with Alabama and Mississippi and Arkansas. Simply put, insurance companies make more money in Louisiana than they do in other states, and that's wrong. A recent report issued by the National Association of Insurance Commissioners showed that Louisiana has the third highest underwriting profit in the country, the fourth lowest loss ratio nationally, and the fifth highest return on net worth in the entire country. To fix this, I will sign legislation that brings Louisiana in line with our southern neighbors and holds those insurance companies accountable for excessive rates. 50 days ago, I promised our commercial vehicle industry that if they put a dash cam in their vehicle, they would get a mandated discount. Today, I signed that bill into law. I want to thank Representative Jack McFarland as well, who worked extremely hard. This bill is a product of him and Representative Rodney Shamahorn, so that Louisiana commercial trucks will finally get some relief. After my signature today, we will now require a 5% premium discount for large trucks that maintain dash cameras on their trucks to record their movements and protect them from lawsuit abuse. Having an undisputed video camera evidence will reduce litigation, improve truck driver safety, and reduce the cost for everyone. 50 days ago, I promised to take a balanced approach by holding insurance companies accountable for high rates and to create the same type of transparency that they demand in our courtroom. I want to thank Senator Royce DePlessis for reaching across the aisle and working with us on that. Because today I'm more authority to help control our rates. Our insurance department needs the power and the tools to be successful in fighting for our citizens. It is the insurance department's job to protect you, to protect our citizens when those who we pay premiums to break their promises and are bad actors. Today, we keep that promise by granting the insurance department greater authority to hold down rates. Texas, Mississippi, South Carolina, Florida, Alabama, just to name a few, all grant their insurance department promise in front of these legislators. That is immediately, as soon as they can get those bills to my desk, we will sign them. The distracted driving bill will prohibit drivers from texting and interacting with social media while driving. Safer drivers means safer roads, means less accidents, which leads to lower lawsuits. The billboard advertising bills. These bills rein in obnoxious lawyer advertising and prohibits insurance companies from passing their advertising costs onto our Louisiana families. As I said before, I'm just as tired of seeing Morris Bart as I am of seeing the lizard. Over the past 50 days, the only side that I and those legislators who have supported these package of bills have chosen are the people. Our people are too good to be taken advantage of yet again and again. They're too good to have promises made and then promises broken. Today, we deliver on good promises. I will now invite those legislators who would like to come up as we complete this historic moment that many in our state have waited on for far too long, and to sign these bills into law.
Good, good, good.
All right. Is the press ready? How about a thumbs up? All good? All right. Okay. You know, sometimes y'all could sit like in the front, like in church, you know, it'd be all right. Well, good morning. Before we get into insurance, I want to acknowledge that the OTS Chief Information Officer, Evelina Broussard, is here, as well as the Commissioner of OMV, our new Commissioner, Brian Adams. And for the past few weeks, OTS has been working to find a solution to the OMV mainframe bottlenecks that have been causing havoc on the system and not allowing people to be able to renew their driver's license. I know that many Louisianians have been frustrated. We issued a declaration of emergency in order to handle this situation. And last Thursday evening, we implemented one of the solutions that OTS believed would remedy the problem, and we have seen significant improvements in performance and stability since that time. We have gone 4 straight days with no issues, and which is a record over the past few months. So I think that this proves that when we focus and we get the right leadership in place, especially at OTS's level, that we can fix these problems. We're going to continue to work to stabilize and upgrade the hardware. And at the same time, we're choosing a replacement to convert to a new system. Remember, we've been on a system that was built in 1970, before many of those in this audience, as I look around, were actually even born. And so that just tells you how long we've needed to change the system. The system has not been purged since 2008. In fact, some of those that I see in the audience probably were still in high school in 2008 and maybe before. So I just wanted to be able to make that announcement. I think it's an important announcement. I think that it continues to show Louisianians out there that we are completely capable of solving problems, and we do not like to kick cans down the road. And that's exactly why we're here today. One of the most pressing issues that are affecting the budgets of Louisiana families is the cost of insurance. And it has become a crisis not only in this state, but in the nation as well. Last year, major business journals like the Wall Street Journal, like Forbes magazine, published story after story about the high cost of automobile insurance and homeowners insurance. At the same time that they're publishing these articles, insurance companies continue to send to Wall Street record profits, while our rates continue to climb, and there seems to be no relief in sight. As we began last year, poll after poll said that the top concern of Louisianians at that time last year was crime. And so we focused on it. We dealt with education, we dealt with the economy, and we also at that time dealt with insurance. We made great strides in public safety, educational reform, and we currently right now have historic economic activity. Again, just yesterday in this very room, we announced a $4 billion expansion here in the capital area that lays on top of the $6 billion expansion we announced at the White House 2 weeks earlier. It goes further 2 weeks before the $18 billion expansion that we announced down in Plaquemines Parish, making that site the largest construction project in North America. Those are historic mile markers for our citizens. They bring great permanent jobs with high incomes that start to elevate the average income of Louisiana families. We passed dozens of bills last year because we also focused, as I said, on insurance, and we passed dozens of bills that we were told were going to lead to lower rates. That is more than any other governor has done in the first 6 months of his or her administration. And yet, we stand here today seeing very little improvement. And while some of those changes may take time, the profits continue to go up, while the amount in our citizens' pockets go down. Since that time, I have poured through the data. I have heard the arguments from both sides. And each time that we were told that changes were necessary and we made them, the only casualty continued to be your wallet. And so today, I want our citizens to know that I'm actually tired of the lies. Though some people would rather bury their head in the sand and ignore the data, it is actually time for this building to respond in fairness and accountability. And again, bring fairness and accountability into the process. Because again, for far too long inside of this very building, there has been a battle waged between insurance companies and trial lawyers. And where those who are behind me are forced to choose. And let me be clear, I believe both sides have plenty of blame to go around. So today, I'm not here to help any lawyers, and I'm not here to help any insurance companies. I'm here to help the citizens of this state. And so I plan to work on legislation with those behind me to hold both sides accountable. And what I would suggest is a balanced approach that has never been taken place in this building. Never before has the legislature looked at insurance and said, we're going to take a balanced approach. And I believe that it is the only way to bring you relief. To confirm what I believe, I recently went into the field and polled the citizens of our state, and the results that came back tell me that they agree. They agree that both lawyers and insurance companies are equally to blame. They also believe that bad or uninsured drivers are to blame. Those are the top 3 items that our citizens believe basically increase the cost of their automobile insurance. And so again, I refuse to travel down a continual failed road. And so I'm going to again suggest that we take a balanced approach. Instead of passing laws that deal with one side of the scale, under which we've done again and again and again with no relief, I say we adjust the scale.